This is Matt for In2 Boxing. I'm delighted once again to be joined by Matchroom's Frank Smith. Frank, huge fight week in Leeds, but first off, how are you feeling?
All good, mate. Just come back from LA, feeling fresh. Got a few hours sleep, so excited to be back in Leeds. Weather's actually quite similar to the LA sunshine, so it's good.
Spot on. Being from Yorkshire, we don't normally see this type of sunshine, but yeah, it's banging, isn't it?
I know. Hopefully it stays like this to the weekend, and then when we leave, it can rain.
Fucking very doubtful. I'll give it half a day and it'll be pissing it now. Let's talk about this card. Huge night for Josh Warrington. He can become a two-time world champion against someone he's faced before in what was a close fight first time around. The careers have taken different turns, but how do you see this fight going from, obviously, Matchroom's perspective? Obviously, we're fully behind Josh, but how do you see this fight playing out? They're both different fighters.
You're right. It's amazing how boxing, careers go. Many people wrote Kiko Martinez off in the Kid Galahad fight. Everyone was like, terrible fight, shouldn't happen, And look at it now. He's defending his world title against Josh Warrington, who he fought. How many years ago was it? I'm trying 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, longer I think.
Right, yeah. So Josh Warrington, who's come back from the Maurizio Lara loss. Obviously the last show unfortunately didn't end exactly how we wanted it to, but it was great to be back in Leeds, and it's great to be back here again. We've got a sold out show on Saturday at the First Direct Arena, and this is Josh's chance to get back in there to those massive fights. People get written off so many times, as we said there, but he's still got so much more to give the sport. And again, he's one of those people who has really done so much for the sport. You see the nights he's put on and what that's done for UK boxing. He deserves a lot of credit for that. Yeah,
he's carried Leeds on his back in terms of the sport of boxing, and we've had the nights at Ellen Road, the nights at Headingley. The First Direct Arena is his main fortress, and it'll be absolutely, I know what that crowd's like, it's going to be absolutely banging on Saturday night. But let's just come to Kiko first. Every time I've seen him fight the last 5 or 6 years, it's always been people commenting on, well, he's at the tail end of his career, is this, that and the other. I'm sure he's only, but 34, 35, but he doesn't look too far gone to me, and especially how he performed against Kid Galahad. He's a very live fighter in this fight.
100%. Look, he's in great shape, he's trained hard for this, and people, like I say, people write people off after a few losses. Kiko Martinez has had his losses, and people go, no, he's finished. He's still got so much left to give the sport. So, it's easy to say after. I think that's where boxing needs to change. You can have a loss, you can go in there and take it. He's taken on the best, Kiko Martinez. He's fought the best time and time again. And yeah, he's lost, but he's come back and he's won in other fights. So I think he's still got a lot to give the sport, and it's going to be a great fight on Saturday.
Is that where maybe boxing needs to take the UFC approach? Because we see these fighters who have 6 losses. We've got Jorge Masvidal, who lost the other week, but he's still a big star. Conor McGregor's taken losses. You don't really see anyone apart from Khabib with a huge winning record. Is that where we need to look at ourselves and say, look, like Buatsi and Craig Richards, great fight, no world title, but it doesn't matter, it's just a good fight. That's where we need to say, come on, take the big fights while they're here. Yeah,
look, I think the best should fight the best, and a loss shouldn't matter. A loss shouldn't define your career. It's different when you're building up a kid from 1, 2, 3 fights. But someone who, once they get to 8, 9, 10 fights, they should take chances, because people will respect the fact that they've taken real fights, and they'll, providing they give their all, people will always want to see them back. Derek Chisora is a perfect example of that. You see the crowds he's still bringing in for shows. You see the numbers he brings in. It's because he gives entertainment to people, and that's what ultimately, I think, if you're willing to take proper fights, you mentioned it with Craig Richards and Joshua Buatsi, win or lose in that fight, people will go, fair play, they took that, and they'll want to see them again. And it only grows the sport of boxing as well. So I think I definitely think that's something that is already changing. The mindset is changing slightly. No one wants to take a loss, but I think people are starting to understand that it's not the end of the world for your career.
100%, especially with the light heavyweight division domestically, what we've got over here. We've just mentioned them two, but Anthony Hard, Callum Johnson, you could go merry-go-round for I don't know how many weeks and enjoy loads of good fights for them, couldn't you?
Yeah, look, 100%. The winner against, whether it's against Anthony Hard or the loser against Anthony Hard, or Callum Smith's a big fight for the winner as well. It's a huge British showdown. Another one you have to look at, Sandy Ryan, for example. Yeah. She went in there, she took a chance early on in her career against a tough test in Farias. And not enough people want to do that. but she'll learn a lot from that fight, and then she'll be able to come back, and people will respect the fact that she took a chance, and I think that's important.
Yeah, it was strange really. I think she took a bit of stick online, but I suppose that's just the nature of the sport and everyone does. But when you look at it, what was that, a 4th fight? And she was going in against someone that experienced. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make much sense to me. But when you look at the rest of this card, you've got Maxi Hughes defending his world title. You've got Ebony Bridges who's fighting for a world title.
Timing, by the way.
Oh, perfect, wasn't it?
It's like you knew he was going to do that.
I have had an idea, but yeah, Maxi Hughes defending his world title, Ebony Bridges fighting for a world title. You've got the talents of Nicholson who's fighting in very quick succession again. This is one of the best cards we've seen, isn't it?
Yeah, look, Maxi Hughes, what a story he's had, the comeback of his career, and the fact that I think this is his first fight where he's full-time in boxing without a job.
I think he was in the process of it in the last fight, but this is officially
100% full on. And you imagine what he can do now with his mind 100% focused on the sport that he loves. He's had a great career already, but he's got so much more he can offer the sport. Great fight against Walsh. You got Ebony Bridges challenging for the IBF World Title as well in a great fight. Dalton Smith against Moylet as well. Dalton's a real talent, got some big fights ahead of him, but Moylet's a good test as well for Saturday night. Sky Nicholson's back out quickly. Callie French as well, Mally Wright, Corey Regan, so a stacked card from top to bottom, and great to be back, like I say, in Leeds at the First Direct, because we haven't been there in a long time. We obviously had Headingley, but before that, when we promoted Josh previously, they were some of the best nights we've seen, and the atmosphere is unrivaled.
Yeah, I can't wait for it. Just moving sort of subject slightly, I think we've seen, I spoke to Eddie briefly about it yesterday, it looks like because of the situation in Ukraine we're going to see Lomachenko stay in the Ukraine, which opens the door, I suppose, more clearly for negotiations. I assume they'd just be happening anyway because he's the final piece to official undisputed, is Devin Haney. Is there an update on this? Because this surely is the fight to make, Kambosos and Devin Haney. It seems to have been going around for so long.
Yeah, discussions have been going for a long time. As you say, the undisputed puzzle can be solved there and then. For whatever your beliefs are, your views on the situation of the belts, this gives a clear undisputed champion, no questions. We're working through it now, working through all the details, and going through the offer, and hopefully later this week, early next week, we'll have some good news. Everyone's aim is to make that fight happen, so fingers crossed we can get it done.
Where's been the delay in this? Is it simply because Kambosos was exploring the possibility of fighting Lomachenko, or is it just because negotiations haven't been able to reach an agreeable point yet? Because for a long time it seemed to be that was the fight, I want Haney for the belt, and sort of everything sort of dragged its heels.
Yeah, look, there was the Lomachenko discussions, there was the Haney discussions, but there was also finding the right site in Australia as well for the fight. So that process took a period of time. Look, George Kambosos was coming off the win of his life, so he's obviously, his world's changed. So things do take a little bit longer than they maybe would have done previously, and there's a lot of work that goes into finding a site, all the deal, everything that goes behind the scenes. So yeah, it has taken a little bit longer, but hopefully we can get to where we need to be with it and be a huge night.
After the interview we did with Eddie yesterday, we talked about potential step-ins for Anthony Joshua, but then it came out, I think last night we were on the train home, I think ESPN had reported something to do with that Ukraine would, or the Minister of Ukraine would allow Oleksandr Usyk the time to train and prepare for Anthony Joshua. Is that now set in stone? Are we sort of on the path now to see this rematch, or are we still unsure about what's happening with AJ? Because he's got to be wondering, what we're doing next, kind of thing.
Look, obviously that's our focus, is to try and make the rematch happen. We're working towards that. Obviously daily things are being updated, changing, but yeah, that's our aim, to work towards that. Obviously if it's not possible, it's out of everyone's control, then we'll have to look at an interim fight and a fight and rescheduling that fight down the road. But first and foremost, that's the focus, is to get the rematch set, date sealed and delivered.
One of the names that kept getting bandied about was Joe Joyce, obviously from Frank Warren's side of things. They obviously say, look, we'll take that fight. Spoke to Eddie yesterday, he says no one's reached out to him, or I assume you'll know more about that. But that's a fight that you'd entertain in the meantime, if by, obviously the sad situation in Ukraine, is Joe Joyce a contender you'd consider? Because Eddie was talking about Otto Wallin and a southpaw, because obviously to prepare for Usyk, but is Joe not a name that maybe you would consider?
I think Joe Joyce should fight Joseph Parker first, personally. Maybe look, he's a name to consider, but I think Otto Wallin, as Eddie said, being a southpaw, it's a good fight for AJ. Gave Tyson Fury a very tough test. Could have won that fight, arguably. What are you going to say? You're laughing.
I was going to jump in and say, I remember he raises his voice every time I'm getting to a point. I was going to say, and I forgot to mention it to Eddie yesterday, because he always mentioned previously Otto Wallin in the sense of Tyson Fury fought Otto Wallin, but then since then he's tried to make Dillian White Otto Wallin, and now we're talking Anthony Joshua Otto Wallin. So I'm saying, is Otto Wallin someone they consider after previously it's been said it's not really, it's sort of been downgraded, that, hasn't it, in years gone by?
He gave Tyson Fury a very tough test, and Tyson Fury is supposed to be, is the number one heavyweight in the world. So I think it would be good for AJ, but let's see. Like I say, his main focus is the Usyk rematch. AJ can't ever be questioned for not wanting to take challenges. He did it. He got beat by Andy Ruiz, got straight back in the ring, and got his belts back. He will take on any challenge. He's never shied away from it. So Usyk, obviously, hopefully we can make that happen. We all know, like as I've said on many occasions, he's got much bigger things going on. So everyone would understand, and our thoughts are with everyone suffering. But that's AJ's sole focus. So people going, oh, he won't fight Joe Joyce, he won't do this, or he wouldn't fight this person. He wants to fight Usyk, who's just beaten him and is supposedly number 2 best heavyweight in the world, in the pound for pound. So he will take on anyone.
Staying with the heavyweight scene, I was seeing a lot of rumblings about potentially Derek Chisora and Andy Ruiz. I think it's sort of been muted since, because I can't remember who said they think it'll be Andy Ruiz versus Luis Ortiz. Is that your understanding from this end, or is there any legs in Chisora versus Ruiz? It'd be a big fight. We'd
love to make Chisora against Andy Ruiz. It would be a massive fight. We're pushing, but I think I'm not sure if it will happen. I think, as you say, the Ortiz route is the route Andy Ruiz is going to go down. But again, fair play. Derek Chisora will take on anyone.
Yeah, I'm going to say that'd be something that you'd want to bring Andy Ruiz over for an O2 Arena fight, wouldn't it? Somewhere to fill out.
100%, that would sell out the O2 Arena, in no question.
We got an update on the venue for Buatsi and Richards. Obviously, he said it's going to be in London yesterday. Any confirmation? You would have thought it may be O2 from the outside looking in, but
need like 24, 48 hours. We're getting there with it, just working through a few bits. O2 would be a perfect location for 2 South London guys, so hopefully we can make that happen, but just need a little bit of time.
Right, and finally, just on yourself, how's the rib? You told me your rib's not too great. Are you still nursing that sparring injury, or?
I'm getting better. Yeah. It's I can lay down frontwards now. I was struggling before, but now I'm alright. So I would like to say I don't blame it completely on Eddie. There's another person I blame it partly on.
I think he said you broke his finger.
No. He broke his finger on me. That's how hard he was punching. That he broke his finger on my elbow. So at least I can say I broke Eddie Hearn's finger.
Oh yeah, well,
that's the one thing I can take from it, because I got beaten in every other round.
You want in the rematch with him? Are you going to have another switch round on camera? Get the hair back tied up, top knot it up.
I'm just not. To be fair, the missus wasn't a massive fan of the top knot, so I think I might have to give that a miss. And
it's a straight band.
I just don't think I can beat him. I think he's too big. I'm not like one of those guys, like strong. I'm so tough. Like I got in there to have a bit of move around and have a little
get in there to put it on you, didn't
he? He did, yeah. He wanted to have it properly. So look, next time I'll just go in there and I'll nut him and just have a go. Yeah.
I'm going to say, what do you do? I think I've had this discussion before about what you do in your spare time, and a lot of people have been boxing have said we never switch off. Is that a case of it for you? You've come back from LA and you back straight on it. You just not switch off? Is this just 24/7 for you?
Yeah, look, we do 45, 50 shows a year, so I'm literally fly back from somewhere, go to the next place, home for a day, home for 2 days, go to the next place, go to meetings. So, but it's not hard work. Well, it's
not when you love it.
It's a lifestyle. It all plays into it. We get to put on amazing events, and it's not a real job. No. That's what I'd say.
Do you ever get to the point at the end of it where either a fight week where you just think, okay, I need a couple of days just to recharge your batteries, or because it looks, obviously we see it from the inside, but it's a bloody lot of work.
No, do you know what? The only time I get when we have a break. So we have a break normally the 3 weeks in January. Yeah. Sometimes we have a couple of weeks in summer. Our run is probably 18 weekends in a row.
Yeah.
where we're going to show, and that's really me and Eddie go to every show, and then we've got teams in individual areas, but it's not. It's fun. Once you get into it, you don't really think about it.
And I saw you when you first started a Matchroom. What age, for people who don't know, what age did you start a Matchroom? And you've obviously just continued to work yourself. At what age did you start?
I met Eddie when I was 14. I started doing work.
14?
Yeah, started doing work experience at 14 and 15, and then started full time at 16, and literally was working like ungodly hours, non-stop. This is to be 14 years this September. So yeah, I've worked my way through teas, coffees, pizzas, anything you need. I would have gone and got it for you.
How did Eddie treat you when you first came on board with it? Were they harsh with tea? Were they like, you got to do this, got to do that?
No, he was always all right. You know, he nearly sacked me after about 3 months, but you know, I deserved it. But he's always been good, and it's a great place to be. You know, it's like a family. You know, it's a family business, and I've always been given opportunities to further my career, and as everyone would who joins. So you know, it's a great company to be at, and not a real job.
Have you got any advice then for any young person who wants to get in? Either look at this guy again. Wants to get involved in any career, doesn't have to be in boxing. Just any career where they want to strive to get to the top. Have you any advice? Because obviously you've done that and paved the way.
My thing, like, you know, I can only say what I've done, and is just I work harder than not anyone else, but I'm not happy unless I'm working hard. You know, like, I just love work, and I do it whether it was here or whether it was somewhere else. I love doing it, and I think for me as well is the side of don't get ahead of yourself. Like, people may think I'm arrogant. I'm the least arrogant person there is. Like, I like being creating something that's successful. Not about me. I don't care about me, but I like being part of it. And people going, do you know what? They're good at that. They're the best at that, and that's for me all it comes down to. And I think if you keep that mindset, it becomes easy, because you're constantly trying to improve and get better. You don't just sit back. Like, it'd be easy for us as a business to sit back and go, look at this, look what we've done. We've got no competition on a global scale in boxing. Like, there isn't. Individual markets we will do, but no one's doing what we do in boxing. And you know, so we could sit back and go, do you know what, look at what we created, and just roll that as it is. But we're constantly trying to build it and evolve and grow, and that's what makes it exciting. Otherwise you just get bored. If we're doing the same thing and weren't trying to grow it, then it would be hard work. But we're constantly on the move, we're constantly saying, right, what can we change, what can we get bigger? So it's exciting.
Absolutely. Look, thanks for talking to Into Boxing again. You give us quite a lot of your time, and fingers crossed we'll catch up later on in the week.
Perfect, look forward to it. Cheers, mate.